So pulling back, Brandon.
Yeah.
So therefore, this is how you teach, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Everything. Everything.
Everything.
Everything.
So therefore, you just kind of give it a beautiful sketch, a big picture, ability to build imagination, if I were to call it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're talking about. But tell me, I'm going to ask this question, saying, okay, now that you've built this perspective in me as a kid,
Yeah.
how does it matter, and how is it meaningful, and how do I use it in my life?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess there's a few different things that come out of this. Um, uh, one of them is that the kids that go through, insofar as anybody goes through an education that is like this, and it doesn't need to be called Egan education, right? They're just, Egan thought that the thing that he was doing when he would go to classrooms and like look at the best teachers is he was just trying to find some way of systematizing what they were doing, what they were doing naturally, intuitively, so he could train other people to do it. And looking back through history and looking at the same stuff. Insofar as people go through this kind of education, what we find is that they know a lot. Because once again, right, these tools, because they make things matter to them, they pay attention to them. They think about them even when they're not in class, and they remember them better. So these kids end up getting. There's no specific data that Egan's team has collected for this. One of the things that I find just exasperating about Egan, and I met the man a number of times. He's now deceased, but I met him a number of times and I loved him. But I find totally infuriating about what he did was that he thought that educational measurements were bunk, and so he didn't do the data on this. So part of my quest is to actually find somebody who can do. In fact, if anybody in your audience right now is somebody who is accustomed at doing educational measurements or measurements of educational interventions, I'm about to launch one this summer, a big one for self-learners that I would love to get, even at this iteration of it, some good data on. I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted.
So therefore, the question that I had was, how does it matter?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
therefore, how is it meaningful? And what's been your experience of how kids who go through this,
Yeah.
how are they successful
Yeah.
vis-a-vis the traditionalist approach or whatever? I think that's really the question.
Thank you very much. So I would say that one of the things that we just see is that kids learn a lot, which is, maybe that doesn't sound very important, but that's the entire aim of traditionalist education. This is in some ways ironic because traditionalism says we want to be efficient about this. We want to standardize things, right? So we want to pluck out the most important things and then push kids to really learn those things. From that perspective, I feel like the kind of lessons that we've just been talking about seem terribly inefficient to them. Wait, why are you asking riddles? Wait, why are you talking about these? Why are you sharing these stories of these things? Surely you could do this more efficiently. But, human minds are not designed to be efficient. Sometimes I don't want to sound like we should just try to be as inefficient as possible. That's stupid. You will learn nothing that way. But if one uses Egan's tools of stories and heroes and upending metaphor systems and things of that nature, shocking revelations, then one can end up doing a much better, more efficient job than the people who try to be efficient. So that's one thing. One might assume that in the future, things like better scores on tests, on reading tests, which end up being knowledge tests, on math, which end up rewarding people who paid more attention in math class, that these things will go up. I do not have the specific data to back that up right now, but it seems like that is almost definitionally true insofar as one thinks that tests measure the things that kids remember and have thought about.